Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today is the 7th lesson of A1 level of German language course, and the topic of today is cases in German language. There are 4 cases in German language which are nominative, accusative, dative and genitive, and we will see an overview of all these cases in today's lesson, but in the upcoming videos we will go through each case one by one in detail, so that we understand it completely. But today we will go through the overview of all these cases. So before we start, we know that in each language there are different components when it comes to sentence. So in one sentence we may have one component subject and one component verb, or one component adjective. For example, in another sentence we might have subject, object, verb and some adjective, and in other sentence we might have subject, verb, object, direct object and indirect object. So all these components together make a sentence, and these components in German language are the cases. So these components correspond to cases in German language. These are not the tenses in what we have in English language. So the tenses are completely different. There is no similarity between cases and tenses. So the cases, as I said, are the parts of each sentence. So one sentence may have only nominative case, another sentence can have nominative and accusative case, another sentence might have nominative, accusative, dative as well as genitive. So it depends on what we are going to explain and through which components we can explain our sentence. So let's go through one by one. Nominative case is the subject of sentence. So how do you identify the subject? Anything that is performing action in the sentence, like I write. I write means I am the subject because I am performing an action, and write is the verb of the sentence. There is no object, whether direct or indirect. So in this sentence, I write, we have only nominative case for I. So I will be the nominative case in this sentence. Then we have accusative case, which is the direct object of the sentence. And how do we identify this direct object? Anything that is receiving the action which is performed by the nominative case or the subject, that is called accusative. So if I say I write a letter, in this sentence I is someone who is performing the action and it is the nominative case, whereas I write a letter. Letter is the object, direct object, because it is receiving the action from the subject of the sentence, which is I. So in this sentence, I write a letter. We have a nominative case, which is the I, and accusative case, which is a letter. Next we have dative case, which is the indirect object of the sentence. And how do we identify the indirect object in the sentence? To or for whom we perform the action is the indirect object of sentence. So I write a letter to my friend. I am performing an action for my friend, and in this sentence my friend will be the indirect object, and which is the dative case in the German language. Now next is genitive case, which shows the possession or ownership. There is some ownership of in the sentence. Then this ownership part of the sentence where we are mentioning the ownership, like the entrance of the house. The house has an entrance, and entrance belongs to the house, therefore it is showing a possession. And this part of the sentence, the entrance of the house, will be in the genitive case. Or my brother's house, or my brother's vehicle, or the son of my sister, for example, or city's administration. So all such kind of parts of sentences, they will be in the genitive case. And why do we need all these cases is because we learned in the previous lessons that each German noun has an article. So it can be masculine, it can be feminine, or it can be neutral. And now we see that we have four cases, which is nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive. So why we learn these is because the article that a noun has, for example, if if the noun is masculine, the article will be der. If the noun is feminine, article will be die. If the noun is neutral, the article will be das. And if the noun is plural, then the article will be die. So this is something that we have already learned, but I explicitly not mentioned in the lesson where we learned this, that these article belongs to nominative case, because the reason was that if we get involved in the cases at the very first or second lesson, it will become difficult for us to get out of these cases. But if you now know that, oh, you have already covered this topic, you feel very relaxed that okay, these are the articles in nominative case which I already know. In the upcoming lessons, we will see the accusative, dative, and genitive case in detail, and also nominative case because it's not completely covered. But the point here is that these articles will change in accusative, dative, genitive case. The masculine article will not remain there for all the cases. The feminine article D will not remain a D for all the cases. Similarly, the thus article for neutral will not remain thus in all the four cases. This is one aspect why we need to know these cases, because the articles will change in each case, and based on the articles we will be able to identify which section of the sentence is in correspond to direct object, which is receiving the action, which section of the sentence is in indirect object and who for whom the action is being performed. And if we know this information, who is performing what for whom, then we will understand the meaning of the sentence. So this is one thing, the articles will change. The next thing is possessive pronoun will change, the adjective will change. So all these changes we will cover in the next section, but here I just wanted to mention why we what is the significance of these cases and why do we need these cases. So let's go through some of the examples which I have listed. So the first example is das Auto ist neu. The car is new. Now this one is a noun which is a neutral noun, therefore it has an article thus, and it is the conjugation of to be verb or sein verb with respect to third person singular, therefore sein verb is conjugated to ist, and neu is the simple adjective. So this section or this part of the sentence is nominative. Then we have next example, ich bin gesund, I am healthy. Now this is the subject of which is the first singular first person pronoun. Then we have sein verb is conjugated to bin for ich, and it is again an adjective. So this is just an information where we have one noun at the start of the sentence, which is the subject, and we do not have any uh, direct object or indirect object. Therefore, these first two examples have only nominative case here. Now the next example is schreibt. Schreiben is a German verb which means to write, and like every verb in German language, there is a conjugation. The verb is conjugated according to the subject, and for third person singular the schreiben verb is conjugated to schreibt. Now, if you see sh, it will produce a sound like sh, and we have a e in the sentence to coming together, which will produce a sound I. So it is schreibt. He writes. Now he is performing an action, but he is writing. So we do not have any object here. Therefore, this part of the sentence is nominative case, and we have the personal pronouns that we learned earlier in previous lessons. They were also in the nominative case. So ich, du, sie in case of formal, sie as a third person singular, and then plural first person, uh, wir or we, then second person plural you or ihr in German language for informal, and sie for formal, and third person plural they or sie in German language. So these we have already learned. So what we have learned already in case of nominative, we have learned the articles and we have learned the personal pronouns in nominative case. In the next videos we will learn the adjective ending etc., and then we will start with accusative, dative and genitive. So in this sentence we have only nominative. Next is sentence is schreibt. So until here we have the same sentence, but next we have einen Brief. Brief is letter, and you see this combination ea will produce a sound like e. So a letter, he writes a letter. Now he is performing an action on a letter, so he is writing a letter. So this letter will be the accusative case in the sentence. And we saw earlier that the articles will change both definite and indefinite. When we learned the articles, we learned that in case of masculine noun, which is here brief, the definite article is there and the indefinite article is I. But now you see an en at the end, which means it the ein in nominative will change to einen in accusative. This we will cover in detail, so you do not need to get yourself confused. Here the focus is on the object which is being, on which the action is being performed, or who is receiving the action. Now the action is being performed on brief, so it is the accusative part of the sentence. Next sentence we have schreibt seiner Mutter einen Brief. So now it is he writes a letter to his mother. Now we have another part of the sentence for whom we are performing the action. So this is the indirect object of the sentence, and this is the direct object because we are writing, we are performing an action on the letter, and for whom we are performing this action, or he is performing the action for his mother. So this is the nominative case in the sentence, this is the dative case in the sentence, and this is the accusative case in the sentence. So it can be the case that we have only nominative case in one sentence. It can be the case we have nominative and accusative. It can be the case that we have nominative, accusative, dative, and genitive, depending on the nature of the sentence. We haven't covered this example here because it would be too much for us. So we cannot say that one particular sentence is accusative or dative or nominative. It is the part of the sentence uh, that, depending on whether it is subject, indirect, indirect object, or it is showing a possession, that part will be one of these four categories. So I hope this is clear to you now. If you have any queries, questions, just put them in the comment. If you haven't subscribed my channel until now, please do it now, and don't forget to like the video if you have learned anything new in this lesson. Thank you and see you.